thunderous WCW Nitro Pyro, crowd roaring, Goldberg chants echoing, the Nitro set glowing red. In the 1990s, World Championship Wrestling didn't just compete with WWE, they beat them. For 83 straight weeks, Nitro crushed Raw in the ratings. But behind the scenes, a series of bad decisions, backstage politics, and unbelievable blunders turned WCW from the hottest wrestling company in the world into a cautionary tale that ended in disaster. Sold off for just $2.5 million. This is the story of WCW's biggest mistakes and how they destroyed themselves. Mistake 1, giving Hulk Hogan creative control. Hogan arriving in WCW in 1994. Red and yellow confetti everywhere. Hogan's arrival was massive. He brought mainstream attention, sponsorships, and fans. But WCW didn't just sign the biggest star in wrestling. They gave him the keys to the kingdom. His contract had a creative control clause, meaning Hogan could veto storylines or match finishes. That might sound harmless until you realize Hogan refused to lose clean. He killed pushes, rewrote endings, and ensured everything revolved around him, even when fans booed him out of buildings. The future stars of WCW, they never stood a chance. Mistake 2, running the NWO into the ground. Bash at the Beach 1996. Hogan turns heel. Fans throwing garbage. The NWO changed wrestling forever. Hogan's heel turn was electric. But instead of building to a satisfying end, WCW dragged the story on endlessly. More members joined. Vincent, Buff Bagwell, even Dusty Rhodes. The NWO split into factions, Hollywood, Wolfpack, then merged again. By 1999, the storyline that once felt real was reduced to a bad soap opera. WCW never pulled the trigger on a conclusion. And when a story has no payoff, the fans stop caring. Mistake 3, burying the future of wrestling. Jericho cutting promos. Eddie Guerrero frustrated. Rey Mysterio unmasked. WCW had the best roster of young talent in the world. Chris Jericho, Eddie Guerrero, Rey Mysterio, Booker T, Dean Malenko. But they weren't tall, they weren't bodybuilders, and they weren't Hogan. Instead of pushing them to the top, WCW fed them to the older stars. Jericho begged for a chance to rise. Eddie grew frustrated. Rey was unmasked on free TV with zero build-up. And when WCW wouldn't build around them, they left. WWE scooped them up and built the ruthless aggression era with the very stars WCW had ignored. Mistake 4, Vince Russo unchained. Russo walking backstage, random Crash TV clips playing. When WCW hired Vince Russo, the man behind WWE's Attitude Era, it sounded like a great idea. But without Vince McMahon to filter him, Russo went wild. Title changes every week. Worked shoot promos that even the announcers didn't understand. David Arquette, the Hollywood actor, winning the world title. Russo himself cutting promos on live TV. Matches stacked with swerves that never paid off. WCW became chaotic, unpredictable, and, worst of all, unwatchable. Fans stopped investing because nothing mattered. Mistake 5, botching the biggest moment Starrcade, 1997, Sting versus Hogan. For over a year, Sting descended from the rafters, haunting the NWO. Hogan was the cowardly heel champion. The payoff? Starrcade 97, the biggest match in WCW history. Sting should have destroyed Hogan clean. Instead, they overbooked it. Hogan pinned Sting clean. Then Bret Hart, just signed from WWF, restarted the match on the grounds of a fast count that wasn't even fast. Sting won, but the crowd was confused. The biggest payoff in WCW history turned into a wet blanket, and momentum died on the spot. Mistake 6. Giving away PPV matches for free. Goldberg versus Hogan in the Georgia Dome, crowd erupting. July 1998, Goldberg versus Hogan, title versus undefeated streak. The biggest match WCW ever had, and they gave it away on free TV. Yes, Nitro drew a record 40,000 fans in the Georgia Dome and monster ratings, but that match could have drawn millions in pay-per-view revenue. WCW sacrificed long-term success for short-term ratings, and once fans knew the biggest matches would always end up on Nitro, why would they ever pay for a pay-per-view? Mistake 7. Financial insanity. Hogan, Nash, Goldberg, all relaxing backstage. WCW's contracts were unlike anything in the business. Guaranteed millions, creative control, limited dates. Nash, Hogan, Bret Hart, Goldberg all had deals that gave them more power than the company itself. Some even had clauses to guarantee raises if someone else signed a bigger contract. No accountability, no consequences. Stars showed up when they wanted, refused to lose, and collected paychecks. WCW wasn't a wrestling company. It was a retirement plan. Mistake 8. Expanding. Too fast visual. Nitro Pyro was Thunder opening graphics. Nitro was hot, so WCW added Thunder. More TV, more touring, more production. But unlike WWF, WCW had no developmental system, no deep writing team. Thunder became a filler show, draining resources while confusing fans. House shows were empty, costs ballooned. When ratings started to fall, WCW's bloated infrastructure dragged them underwater. Mistake 9. Backstage politics visual. Fingerpoke of Doom. Nash booking meetings. The inmates were running the asylum. Hogan, Nash, and Hall had the power to change storylines on a whim. Kevin Nash, while still wrestling, booked himself to end Goldberg's streak with a cattle prod. Then, in the infamous Fingerpoke of Doom, Hogan poked Nash, and both laughed as Hogan regained the title. The message to fans was clear. Nothing matters. It wasn't about stories. It was about ego. Mistake 10. Ignoring the fans' visual. Judy Bagwell on a forklift. Random run-ins. Fans wanted payoffs. Instead, they got Judy Bagwell on a forklift. The Kiss Demon, booked only to satisfy a sponsorship deal. Endless heel and face turns with no explanation. Run-ins on every main event. WCW forgot the golden rule. Wrestling is storytelling. If the audience can't follow or trust the story, they stop watching. And once fans turned away, they didn't come back. Mistake 11. Leaning on nostalgia visual. Warriors' short WCW run. Sid Vicious promos. While WWF created The Rock, Triple H, and Kurt Angle, WCW kept digging up the past. Piper, Side, Ultimate Warrior. Brief runs that went nowhere. Outside of Goldberg, WCW created no new megastars. Instead, they looked backward while WWE built the future. And the future always wins. Mistake 12. No identity visual. Nitro switching between cruiserweights, hardcore brawls, comedy skits. One week WCW was about cruiserweights. The next week, hardcore matches. Then celebrity appearances. Then comedy. Then NWO. There was no consistent tone, no identity. WWF, for all its chaos, felt unified. WCW felt like a roulette wheel. Spin it, see what you get. And when fans don't know what to expect, they stop tuning in. Mistake 13. Stopped innovating. Visual, early Nitro split screen. Rey Mysterio highlights. Then, late WCW Crash TV. WCW innovated first. Nitro, cruiserweights, the NWO. But by 1999, they stopped leading. Instead, they copied WWF. More blood, more swerves, more chaos. Always one step behind. The company that once changed wrestling forever was now chasing shadows. Conclusion. Visual: WCW logo fading to black. By 2001, the money was gone. The ratings had collapsed. The locker room was gutted, and the company that once beat Vince McMahon was sold to him for just $2.5 million. WCW's story isn't just about wrestling. It's about ego, money, power, and wasted potential. A reminder that no empire falls overnight, but mistake by mistake, they crumble. And WCW crumbled before our eyes. Fade out with dramatic music. Thanks for watching. Subscribe for more deep dives into wrestling history.